It was the Eco Studies program, and Laura Johnson through UVM. They were um, looking at pollinators on farms in 4 different commodity crops.
Yeah,
So mostly just kind of categorizing what was there.
yeah.
And that was pretty cool, I thought. They had like soybeans, blueberries, mixed veg farms. And it was really interesting to see everything they were finding, some really unique things.
Huh.
Um, yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Neat.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. If you came yesterday, thanks for coming yesterday and joining us for the first webinar in our IPM week, which is there a national IPM week? And do
Not
you
that
know?
I know of.
Oh, okay. Well, we made IPM week up.
Yeah, you're the first. You're the first, of course.
So it's the last week in January, everyone. IPM week official here. But as I was saying to the attendees yesterday, we have so much work going on at UVM and in UVM Extension focused on pest management and IPM, lots of cool research. And we just wanted to have a chance to share that with folks. And so we decided to put together a webinar series. And so today we're joined by Dr. Ann Hazelrigg, who many of you know. She's a plant pathologist, our plant pathologist here at UVM and in the state of Vermont, and runs also the plant diagnostic lab that you may have used a time or two in your work. And then we're also joined by Kellie Damann, who is a research specialist with UVM Extension with our team here in Northwest Crops and Soils. And they're going to be talking to us today on a bunch of topics. Anne's going to focus on what to watch out for in 2026 based on her observations from 2025 or based on her crystal ball that I saw in her office one time on the top shelf. And Kellie is going to be talking about a really interesting strawberry disease project that we have going on here with our team. So Kellie, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so before we move on, just want to thank all of our funders, people that have supported our work and others in pest management. So the USDA, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, the Vermont Agency of Agriculture, the Northeast Extension Risk Management and Education Program, and the One Hive Foundation. So thanks to them for all of their support. And next slide. Oh, next slide. There are CCA credits and pesticide applicator credits available for attending the webinar today. And we'll put that QR code up later so that you can scan it once the webinar is complete. And if you are interested or need pesticide applicator credits, please send information to Shannon McDonald. You can see the information needed. Shannon will also put that in the chat, and she will pass that on to the Agency of Ag. Okay, are there any other slides there, Kellie? Is that what?
Nope, just
Oh,
mine.
just yours. We're starting. Okay. All right. Well, again, we will have a webinar tomorrow as well. It's IPM week. So every day this week, noon to 1, we're highlighting a topic. And I am now going to turn it over to our first speaker, Kellie Damann, who's going to talk about diseases and strawberry diseases in particular.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. No, I'm very excited to be here today and share all of these updates with you guys on strawberry disease management that we kind of discovered over the course of 2025. So like Heather said, my name's Kellie Damann. I'm a research specialist for UVM Extension, Northwest Crops and Soils. Today, we're going to kind of dive in to one of the projects that I'm leading. This project was funded by a specialty crop block grant provided by the Vermont Agency of Ag. And this project was really to kind of assess the disease landscape in Vermont with strawberry production, evaluate various management strategies that could be used to help combat major diseases, and also help develop more resources for strawberry growers. So kind of just to outline what we'll be discussing today. First, we're going to start, we started this project with a online grower survey over the winter of 2025 and got lots of great feedback. So I'll share that with you. Afterwards, I'm going to dive into some of our on-farm strawberry field scouting results that we observed this season, covering some of the major diseases and pests found, and also diving into some of the associated symptoms and management practices with those diseases and pests. And then briefly, we'll kind of cover this project. We're doing a few on-farm trials at various locations in Vermont. One of those being in Alberg, Vermont, which is up in the Northwest. And this trial is just looking at the use of low tunnel production versus kind of more open strawberry production, and assessing the differences with diseases, pests, and yield. So that's kind of the layout for this presentation. First, we'll start with kind of going over some of the 2025 Strawberry Grower Survey highlights. So as I mentioned, this was conducted in the winter of 2025. We had 12 Vermont strawberry growers who responded to the survey, and just providing us feedback and insight on their production methods, disease and pest concerns, management strategies, how their yields are, and what their sales strategies are like. So when we look at production highlights from this survey, from what the participants were telling us, so out of the 12 responses, 50% of those participants indicated that they were certified organic. 62% of those participants were using matted row, while the other chunk were using plasticulture, and 75% of those participants used straw for overwintering, while the others used things like row cover to protect the plants. From the production side, the top variety that a lot of these participants indicated that they grow were Jewel was number one by far, and then followed by AC Valley Sunset and Flavorfest. On average, these participants indicated that they keep their crop for about 2 years in production and average about 8,000 to 10,000 pounds per acre. Some of the limiting factors that these participants indicated on why they can't extend their season, or the years, I should say, were things due to disease, low yielding after a few years, and also insect pressure. And when we kind of look at the pest and disease highlights from what they indicated, many of the participants said that botrytis was their number one disease concern in their fields, followed by powdery mildew and anthracnose. The top insect pest concern was by far tarnished plant bug, followed by strawberry bud weevil and potato leafhopper. And they all had various different management strategies for both disease and insects, whether it was hand removal, using pesticides, but variety selection and plant spacing definitely play a large role in all of this to reduce disease pressure and kind of limit insect pressure as well. From this survey, a couple of big highlights that we had were 56% of the growers indicated that they don't feel confident in their management practices in organic systems, and 100% of the respondents indicated that they would like more resources on disease management. So the hope with this project, and I'm really happy with these survey responses, because the big goal is we want to provide growers with more resources. So they feel confident moving forward in organic strawberry production. So we're going to flip the tide now, and we're going to kind of see what happened during our field scouting this past season. So we had the 12 farms respond in the online survey. We also asked participants if they would be interested in having us come out during the 2025 season to scout their fields for various pests and diseases. And we ended up visiting 9 different farms throughout Vermont, assessing 2 varieties at each farm. So we hit about 7 different Vermont counties, and we also went into New Hampshire just a little bit to check out a strawberry farm there. Overall, we assessed 8 different varieties. All of these were June-bearing varieties. 6 of the 9 farms were all growing Jewel. So we included that in our study. And each farm was using very different disease management strategies. We do have a full summarized report of our strawberry field scouting that you can find on the Northwest Crops and Soil website if you're kind of interested in seeing exactly what varieties and exactly what disease management practices were occurring at those farms. So over the 2025 growing season, we visited these farms 2 times. The first was in May, where we did an in-field foliar disease assessment. And we also collected about 1 to 5 plants per variety at each farm. And we brought those back to the plant diagnostic clinic where they assessed for crown and root diseases along with winter injury. We then went back out in June or July, depending on when the fruit was starting to come in. And we did an in-field fruit disease assessment. And at that time, we also did a soil collection. And we sent that soil off to the University of Arkansas, where they did a plant parasitic nematode evaluation for us and sent the results back over. So I'll be covering all of these today. First, we're going to start with some of the foliar disease assessments. So in May, we visited each of these farms to scout a wide variety of foliar diseases, some of which can overwinter in the plant debris. During these evaluations, we observed that almost 30% of the farms had leaf spot, while all other diseases were relatively low. And this is 30% out of the about 1,700 plants that we looked at that had leaf spot. In the field, it's sometimes kind of hard to tell the difference between different foliar diseases, especially between leaf spot and these 2 other diseases that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. So leaf scorch and leaf blight. Fortunately, since most Vermont growers are only keeping their strawberries in production for 1 to 2 years, these tend not to be economically impactful diseases for the most part. Currently, these days, there is a lot of varieties that have built-in resistance to leaf spot and leaf scorch. But it's still important to scout your fields throughout the season, as various diseases and pests can creep up at any time, and knowing the differences are always key. So kind of breaking down what these spots are, if you are in your field scouting. Like I said, although leaf spot in general doesn't have an economic impact, it's important to understand the symptoms of each of these, as for example, a heavy presence of leaf blight may reduce the plant health of your strawberry crop and reduce yields the following year if you tend to keep them and harvest them. Each of these have some kind of purplish spot on the leaves on the upper leaf surface. However, leaf spot, usually as it develops, the centers will turn gray or white on older leaves. And leaf scorch, how you could tell the difference is the centers usually become kind of a brown, light brown, and those spots will kind of coalesce. And it will create a large red appearance on the leaflet, so almost like the leaf's on fire. So it's very distinguishable as it develops between leaf spot. And then as far as leaf blight goes, as those spots develop, they're going to form a V-shaped lesion, which kind of follows the major veins in the leaflet inwards, creating that V. So these are very distinct differences among the three as these symptoms develop. Now, for these pathogens, and as far as management practices go, there's more emphasis on cultural controls, than chemical controls. So choosing resistant cultivars and making sure your where you're getting the plants from is disease-free. Big thing with foliar pathogens is just keeping moisture off the leaves. So you could do that by using drip irrigation. And you also want to maintain good airflow. That way it is drying the leaves. So kind of think about plant spacing when you're putting in a new crop. Another thing that you could do if things are kind of getting out of control, there are protective fungicides out there like copper fungicides, but it's not necessarily recommended. Really focus on just keeping moisture down and that plant spacing for air circulation. So also during the first trips to the farms, we collected the 1 to 5 plants that we brought back to the plant diagnostic clinic. So there was a total of 65 plants that we brought back to them for a full assessment. This graph on your left is showing you what the plant diagnostic clinic found. And you can see with this graph that red steel, root and crown rot, as well as black root rot complex, and were the major 2 crown and root diseases discovered across the 9 fields. So red steel was identified in 8 of the 9 farms, and of the 65 plants evaluated, 41.5% of those plants had red steel symptoms. And then following that, black root rot was found in 7 of the 9 farms, and of the 65 plants, 33.8% of those plants, of the 65 plants, showed symptoms. So I want to spend a little time here, just because talking to growers and other researchers, crown and root diseases tend to be a big concern for them. So I want to kind of spend some time on the symptoms and management strategies of both red steel and black root rot complex. So red steel is caused by the fungus Phytophthora. This organism can pretty easily move through water. It kind of has like a little tail on it that helps it get through water. So you'll usually see symptoms of red steel in low spots in the field or wet spots in the field. And it could be fairly destructive in heavy clay soils after they become saturated after cool weather events. So as you're in your field and you're looking around, some symptoms you can kind of keep note of is above ground, you'll see the plants are stunted, and those really bright green leaves tend to dull if they are infected with Phytophthora. As you get closer to berry production, there will be little to no fruit and few runners on the plants. Below ground, if you were to dig up that plant, you'll see that the main roots kind of have a sprat tail appearance. So there's no kind of fine roots coming off of the main root. And if you were to slice the plant in half, you would see this reddish discoloration that you can see in this picture off to your right. Very characteristic of red steel. As far as management practices go, field selection is key with this disease. So avoiding fields that have a history of red steel, if there are some on your field or on your farm, this fungus can survive for up to 13 years in the soil. And kind of as usually wet spots, make sure those fields that you're planting into have good drainage. If you have to plant into kind of marginal soils, if you use raised beds of at least 10 inches, that could kind of help. And of course, using certified disease-free stock. And if you're going between fields with one that you know that has red steel, always use good sanitation practices. And when we look at the black root rot complex, so this is one I've talked to a lot of growers about, and definitely is a major concern. Um, this is one that's definitely being studied, and things are kind of coming out every day about this disease. So black root rot complex is made up of up to 5 different soil pathogens. Recent research has discovered that some of the main drivers include the fungi Rhizoctonia, and an association with the root lesion nematode. Some kind of factors that can contribute to higher incidence of black root rot in the field is poor soil drainage, low organic matter, abiotic stresses like a freeze-thaw cycle, and the invasion of other plant pathogenic fungi and just nematode feeding could help promote this disease. So some symptoms to be aware of. Above ground, you're going to see that reduced vigor, similar to steel, stunting, and productivity decline. Below ground, you're going to have a very, very sparse root system with black lesions. You can see in this picture on the bottom right, very, very dark roots, and often there's no healthy white roots visible. So in more recent research, the root lesion nematode has been correlated with black root rot. And we were kind of curious with this project to see what those populations look like in Vermont, and if there were other plant parasitic nematodes that were in Vermont fields as well. So during the second round of scouting in June and July, we collected soil samples and we sent those off to the University of Arkansas, and they evaluated for 15 different plant nematodes, and they found 2 different ones in the soils. So you'll see on this picture to your left, this is what a lesion nematode and its eggs look like inside the root. So this little guy was found at 8 of the 9 farms surveyed. Fortunately, populations were on average kind of low, so 12.3 nematodes per 100 centimeter cubes of soil. We also observed the lance nematode, but that was just at one of the 9 farms and relatively low populations. Excuse me. And if any of you did happen to attend the Veg and Berry meeting last week, you did hear Vern mention about testing your soils for nematodes. So I just kind of wanted to reiterate that if you are seeing some potential signs of nematode damage in your fields, University of Arkansas is pretty cheap, and they would be happy to test your soil for you. So when you go out into the fields, kind of some things to look for, some things that are similar to crown and root diseases are you'll see some stunting in the plants, but something more specific to nematode is that your plants will be sensitive to drought. You'll have a reduction in runner productivity. The petioles are generally shorter and will be more erect than normal ones, and you'll have smaller than usual berries. So just to kind of keep this in the back of your mind, the damage threshold of the root lesion nematode is about 50 nematodes per 100 grams of soil, but that could be lowered if you already do have a presence of root rot pathogens like Rhizoctonia. So when you look at, this is just kind of a reminder table for you, and kind of combining black root rot and the root lesion nematode comparisons among the 9 fields. So you could see that all but 1 farm with the nematodes have black root rot present in the crop. Currently, the management options are limited for both root lesion nematode and black root rot. Really, you just want to make sure that you're getting nursery stock that's free of the nematodes and of the different black root rot pathogens. A couple other strategies is we're all about crop rotation. So 3 to 5 year crop rotation using cover crops. You do want to avoid crucifers and legumes because those can also build up in the soil the pathogens that you don't want. And there are some varieties that are out there that some strawberry varieties out there that tend to be more resistant to black root rot pathogens and lesion nematodes. So just keeping an eye out for that. So along with the soil collection during the second scouting visit, we also conducted in-field disease assessments. We looked at 1,700 berries, finding that similar to what the growers' concerns were in the online survey, botrytis was the most prevalent disease found, followed by anthracnose. It should be noted that insect damage was the main driver making these fruits unmarketable. Many tarnished plant bugs were found, and those fruits usually have like a button-like appearance. And I did notice those during the evaluations. But when you're looking at these two diseases in the field, so botrytis and anthracnose, it can be a little hard, at least in the early stages, to decipher which one's which. So botrytis usually, they both kind of start out kind of like a lighter brown, but botrytis usually has no distinct border with the healthy tissue versus anthracnose, which it does have that water-soaked lesion, but it rapidly turns firm and turns into kind of like a dark circular lesion, usually dark brown or black. Management strategies similar to foliar diseases. So increase the plant spacing for better air circulation and improving the drying times. Choosing drip irrigation, so no excess water is around, using good sanitation practices, and especially with botrytis, which can affect blossoms as well. You want to scout your fields and make sure you're pulling any dead tissue or tissue that you might see kind of browning. There are a couple cultivars out there, so not necessarily resistant, but cultivars that keep the fruit elevated from the planting floor, which can help improve airflow and also reduce the risk of infection. So that is something to look out for when you're trying to select the right varieties. And there are chemical management strategies that can also be effective. So I'm going to switch tides here. I just have a few slides regarding our on-farm trial. So this is up in Alburg, Vermont. So we have a strawberry disease management trial, which is evaluating the use of low tunnels in strawberry production systems, pest pressure, yield, and the quality of the organic strawberries, and comparing that to open field production. In this trial, we had 4 different treatments. So we had a low tunnel only, fungicide only, low tunnel and fungicide combined, and a control group that was uncovered and unsprayed. The fungicide we used was double nickel, and we sprayed that every 7 to 10 days up until bloom. So just some early results from this trial. We're still doing some of the data analysis, but for the marketable yield between these treatments, we didn't see a significant difference. But where we did see some significant difference was with the unmarketable fruit. Those treatments with the low tunnel did show a reduction in unmarketable berries associated with diseases, insects, abiotic factors. And the low tunnel and the fungicide treatment did show the greatest reduction in unmarketable fruit. I do want to highlight, I got some fresh data off the press right before this, that the disease and insect pressure was the greatest in the unmarketable fruit in the control group. So just throwing that out there, if you're not doing anything to your berries, you might have a little bit more disease and insect pressure. So something to consider. We are repeating this trial next year to see if this trend continues from year to year. We're still analyzing some of this data too, so stay tuned. We'll be posting more results on the Northwest Crops and Soils website, so you can follow us and find more up-to-date research results. And I just want to thank everybody for attending again today. If you have any questions, you can find my email there. Feel free to email me or ask me after this presentation.
Great, thanks, Kelly. Right on time. I was about ready to give you a warning, but you finished. All right, great. Thanks. We'll turn it over to Anne and we'll take questions at the end. So put your questions in the chat, please. And Kelly, if you see a question for you in the chat and you want to answer it by typing it in, that's fine too, just in case we don't have enough time at the end. Oh, Anne, you are muted, but we do not see your slides yet.
I know, sorry. I'm going to share and then I'm trying to get to, no, I want screens. How do I, oh, there, okay.
We have something.
Okay, just a sec.
Yep.
I think it's coming. All right.
There you go. We see
All
it.
right. Okay, cool.
There.
All right. Hi, everybody. This is going to be a fast and furious talk about a lot of different things because I just didn't know who was going to show up at this. But I just wanted to point out, you know, if you're a high tunnel grower early in the season, almost all the problems are abiotic, which means they're non-infectious. So it's like cold damage, things like that, because pathogens really aren't that busy when it's early. Just wanted to remind you, these are IPM talks. So IPM is just common sense, basically. And what we want to do is choose to do all the cultural things we can first, like plant selection, sanitation, site selection, rotation. And then as we move our way up that IPM pyramid, things get more toxic and more inputs. So the goal is to spend a lot of time on the lower part of the pyramid before you ever have to use a pesticide. So like I said, early season stuff, especially in high tunnels, a lot of abiotic stuff. So this is cold injury onto high tunnel tomatoes. Tomatoes do the weirdest things with cold. One of the most important things, if you see a problem in your high tunnel on a plant, first thing is look at the roots. Always look at the roots, because if something looks funky in the top, it may be caused by a poor root system. So I always tell growers, rule that out first, and then look at the age of tissue that's affected. If it seems like it's all one age of tissue and the new growth looks good, that's another good clue that it's abiotic. It was like cold injury when those leaves were smaller. And you can just relax, it's going to grow out of it. Another really common high tunnel problem this time of year, late winter, early spring, is edema, and that happens a lot on tomato plants. It can also be on herbaceous ornamentals like ivy geraniums and other plants. But it's when it's cool and cloudy out and you're watering your plants, the plant takes up water and it doesn't transpire it because it's cloudy and cool. So all that moisture builds up in the cells and then causes that really funky, usually around the veins, kind of a bubbly growth. Again, look at the new growth. Usually this is a one-time occurrence. And once it gets sunnier, warmer, you get better on watering, the plant will grow out of it just fine. Another really common early season problem in high tunnels is ethylene damage. And ethylene, this can happen from a cracked heater or exhaust that gets into your greenhouse. And tomatoes are like the canary in the coal mine, although, you know, every other things are susceptible to this too. But what you see is like this curling and twisting of growth. It looks like herbicide damage to me. So again, you know, if it's really severe, like this picture on the left, you know, the plant will grow out of it, but it may not be totally, you're going to lose all that growth probably that looks funky. But again, the first thing, if I see things like this, especially if you see a gradient of injury, it's worse near a heater or something like that. First thing to do is call your heater person and get make sure there are no cracks in your heaters. The other thing I see early season are, you know, if it's mostly abiotic, but it can also be a root rot. So that's why you always want to check your root systems. And the other thing is crown rots. So this picture on the left is a Rhizoctonia fungal crown rot. It almost looks to me like mouse has girdled that plant. But typically it's a hit or miss problem in cold, wet soils, maybe in the lower part of a greenhouse. Best thing to do is pull that thing up, replant it, and probably by the time you replant, the soil's warmer and the plant will be just fine. But there, for these root rots and crown rots, there's no rescue for it. You're not going to drench it with something. Better just to start over with a clean, healthy plant. You can avoid a lot of these damping off problems if you're growing seedling trays. You want to do anything you can to promote rapid germination. Always start with clean flats. Don't leave any soil left on the trays because that can harbor the pathogens. Sanitize them with bleach or hydrogen peroxide. Using heat mats helps, gets the seedling up quick, warms the soil. You want to avoid overwatering, especially when it's cool and cloudy. Avoid overcrowding. And then the soil mix you choose might have a big effect. If you choose something with a really high organic matter, it's going to have a high water holding capacity, and it might make your roots more susceptible or more prone to root rots. You can also use Root Shield, which is trichoderma, an organic drench that competes with the bad root rot pathogens for sites on the roots. So a lot of people use Root Shield in their seedling flats. The other common problem in high tunnels this time of year, or when you put tomatoes out, any crop, is white mold or sclerotinia. It's kind of a cool one because the first thing you see is that fluffy white mold, and that's how you diagnose it. It has a really wide host range. It's usually hit or miss, but it's going to show up where it's low spots in the tunnel. Maybe you have an emitter that's putting out too much water, but low wet spots is usually where it shows up. And this fungus disease has a long-term overwintering structure called a sclerotia. So if you dig around in that fluffy white mold, you'll see little black hardened, it's masses of hyphae, it looks like little mouse droppings, but those can fall into your high tunnel soil and last there for 10 to 15 years. So if you see that disease, either pull it up or cut it off at the base and get it right out of the house. You don't want those sclerotia to develop and drop into the soils. This was kind of a cool one that I got from somebody last May. He had Daughter, which is a parasitic plant. It had infested his compost, he thinks. But what it does, it produces seeds, and the seeds were in the compost. They germinate, they produce this tendril, and they have about 5 to 10 days to find a plant. So if they don't find a plant, it'll just die and you're done. But if that tendril finds a plant, it sort of hooks itself around that stem, and then it starts sucking juices from that plant. And then the root system for the daughter doesn't matter anymore. It's getting all the nutrients from the plant. So it's kind of an interesting one. You know, if he had contaminated compost, hopefully he just got rid of that compost, because I don't know that there's any way to fix this unless it was a small amount and he could really heat it up. This is just another picture of Daughter in a seedling flat. So it's kind of cool. Can happen outside too. I haven't seen it that often, but it's kind of a neat plant disease. It's considered a plant disease, but it's a parasitic plant. So Kellie did a good job covering all the diseases in strawberries. We did see a fair amount of leather rot this year caused by Phytophthora pathogen. It's a fungus-like organism. It's not really a fungus. It's kind of a cross between a fungus and a bacteria, because it's got this motile zoospore, but that can swim in water films. So this disease is really common with wet weather, often in low spots when the berries are green, and you get an off flavor or color or smell. And strawberry stuff is really hard for a grower to identify. A lot of times I suggest just putting the berries in a plastic bag with a moist paper towel. And if you get fungus on there, the white mold, that would probably be leather rot. Grayer would be botrytis. But, strawberries have so many problems. That's why people only stay in them for 2 years, because they just run out of gas because of all the root issues and other issues. But there's a new disease coming up coming up the East Coast from Florida called Neopestalochiopsis, and people are calling it Neopest for short. But this berry, it's a kind of a triple whammy because it can cause a berry rot, a foliar leaf spot, and a crown rot. But the way to distinguish this disease is you'll see those black fruiting bodies on that picture on the right. You can see those with your naked eye. If you see black fruiting bodies, that's neopest disease. And we'd be really interested if you're seeing a lot of this. We're happy to look at strawberries, but that's what it looks like close up. And if you put that, if there's moist weather, those black fruiting bodies produce this spore tendril, and that you can see that also with your naked eye. That's the picture on the bottom right. So it starts as a foliar blight during warm, wet weather, and then it spreads to the crown and the fruit, and look for those black fruiting bodies. Leaf spots are the first symptoms. Like if I saw that leaf out in the field, I wouldn't know for sure on the left whether it was phomopsis or, you know, one of the other leaf spot diseases. But once I see those black fruiting bodies, and I may have to bring it into the clinic and put it in a moist chamber to see those, but that's distinctive for this new disease. Causes a crown rot, but lots of things cause crown rots in strawberries. I always hate getting strawberry samples because it seems like you can find a little bit of everything in the crowns. But the above ground symptoms would be reddening of leaves, stunting, collapse of the plants, usually during the stress of fruiting. So just something we're watching for, and you should watch out for too. And we're happy in the plant diagnostic clinic to look for it. Got a lot of calls from home gardeners about this disease last year. It's a lilac leaf blight. It's a fungal disease. We had it in 2024 and again in 2025. And what happens is, you know, we've had wet springs, and that just sets up plants for these fungal diseases. So I think the infections happen early on. And then as the season goes on, the plants are basically defoliated by August. I'm seeing this also with crab apples and apples, this early defoliation. That's because of a variety of fungal diseases. But remember, with any biotic disease, which is infectious, like fungi, bacteria, viruses, think about the plant disease triangle. It's really a simple concept, but it's a good one. That the way you want to manage plant disease is you want to impact one of those three legs of that triangle. You want to change the pathogen, the environment, or the host. So in the case of this lilac leaf blight, what we try to do is manage the pathogen by raking up the leaves and destroying those in the fall. We try to manage the environment, make it less wet by really pruning that lilac so it's opened up to air and light. That'll help decrease the amount of that fungal disease. So it remains to be seen what happens this year, but we've been having cool, wet springs. And then, you know, I think that stress, the flash drought last year probably caused further stress to that shrub. But a lot of people were concerned their plants were dead, but I always told people to check bud set. Happens usually, I think, in July. So if you see those 3 buds on that plant, even though it's defoliated, you're good to go for next year. Also, if you just scrape that twig and see green tissue underneath, you're good to go. So make sure you thin your lilacs this winter and consider removing further stress. You know, use those IPM strategies by applying a mulch and thinning the plant. Also, we saw a lot of anthracnose last spring just because it's cool and wet. Anthracnose is a fungal disease in maples, oaks, ash, and usually you see that dieback. It's usually centered around the leaf veins because they're a little bit lower on the leaf and they stay wetter longer. So that's where the fungus travels. By the time you see it, too late to do anything, and it won't really affect the long-term health of the tree. So you just ignore it. Rake and destroy leaves in the fall. We also saw this peach leaf curl disease. We've seen that the past couple of years. It happens when it's cool and wet. on stone fruits, you see this like bubbly, purpley growth on the fungus and on the leaf. And it's a fungus disease. When you see it, it's too late to do something about it. You can spray fungicides, but as a home gardener, I sure wouldn't do that. Maybe you would do it if you're a peach orchardist. This is a real common problem that I always get questions about. People think it's a leaf spot disease, but this is four-lined plant bug damage. And it's typical on a lot of different herbs and flowers, chrysanthemum, basil, but it causes that little angular leaf spot. And you may or may not see that little bug on the leaf because they don't hang around for very long. They're always flitting about. But that's what's causing all that damage. So if you're trying to grow herbs and you don't want to see this, probably row covers are the way to go. Be hard to keep up with sprays too, because this thing is active all season long. Okay, as of September 20th, we had drought conditions, that flash drought, and it sort of remains to be seen what happens this year because of that drought. A lot of woody ornamentals were stressed from that. So it'll be interesting. We did see drought symptoms in blueberries. Anytime you see that leaf edge dieback, that's typical of drought injury. The plant's not getting enough water up to the outer part of those leaves. And we also saw sun scald on blueberries. So those were two common problems. And there's a great blog site at Cornell. If you're growing berries, there is a diagnostic tool that can help you try to figure out what the problem is. Also in the clinic, we're happy to look at pictures if you want to send us pictures of what you're seeing. So when it got hot and dry, spider mite damage really goes up, especially in high tunnels, but also in the field. You might see webbing, you might see bronzing of the tissue. This picture on the left that's way too many spider mites. The person was not scouting their planting, but that's why you want to scout early, often, because you can manage this with some good organic, like hort oils and things like that, but not if it builds up to this level. The picture on the right, this is an interesting mite problem called broad mite. We usually don't see this until late in the season, and it causes that russeting. It loves peppers. They're there earlier in the season, but they've built up enough by the end of the season to cause that russeting. And that's another one that it can cause curling and twisting of foliage, like that herbicide injury. So we're happy to look at stuff if you see any curling and twisting of foliage, because you want to catch this one early. Anytime we have warm, dry conditions, that's a perfect time for powdery mildew. It's a unique fungus disease because it doesn't like leaf wetness. It likes just high humidity, anything above 85%. And I always get questions, oh, I've got it on my lilac and it's spreading to my cucurbits. What can I do? Well, powdery mildews are very, very host specific. So if you see something on your phlox, or I guess this is bee balm, I think, it's not going to be the same powdery mildew that's infecting your lilac or your cucurbits. We sort of see them all at once because they all like the same warm, dry conditions, but they're very, very host specific. And again, for this, you want to improve air circulation. There are a lot of good organic fungicides you can use, like some of the Armacarb baking soda sprays, horticultural oils, things like that. A lot of scorch on woody trees and shrubs. It'll be interesting. I saw a lot of defoliation on my trees in my yard. So it'll be interesting to see how things look this next season. I think I just have a few more pictures. During that warm period, we also got some farms, it was sort of depended where you were, but a couple farms got really warm, wet conditions. And that's perfect setup for this fungus-like organism called Phytophthora blight. It causes a fruit blight on peppers, eggplants. But on that picture on the right, you can sort of see a dark canker. That's how it starts out, usually near the soil line, and then the fruit becomes rotten. So that's something that happens when it's warm and wet. This was a disease that we saw a couple falls ago when we had that saturated soils, just when the pumpkins were starting to get ripe. And anytime you've got saturated soils for 24 hours, that little motile zoospore is attracted to plants and can easily infect the pumpkins. And it basically wiped out a lot of growers' pumpkins that year. Okay, beech leaf disease, something to look out for. We've got that in various places. It's caused by a nematode, and it causes that banding in the foliage. It's moving fast, and they think maybe it's being carried by birds. But this attacks any native or ornamental beech in the landscape or forest, and it can kill trees and defoliate them within 6 to 8 hours. I mean, 6 to 8 years. So it's really depressing. Our beeches don't need that, but the symptoms are easiest to see in the spring when the leaves come out, but you really look for thickened leaves, thinning canopy, and that banding on the foliage. The other thing we're looking out for that's not here yet is spotted lanternfly. I guess it's come through Vermont, but they've found it on dead ones on shipments and things, but this eventually will probably make it here. It's a plant hopper. It's not a moth. Has piercing, sucking mouth parts. And the reason people are worried about it is because they feed en masse and just suck plant juices. Those are the nymphal stages. They're colorful. They're really pretty, but they make major pest on apples and grapes. So this is something we're looking for, and let us know if you see them. The way they're probably going to make it to the state is through their egg masses. They like to lay eggs anywhere, especially like tires, so that they might be brought into the state that way. And the picture on the left is the far left egg mass is the spotted lanternfly. It almost looks like cement on the bark, whereas codling moth, spongy moth, sorry, is the egg mass on the right. You see little black pepper dots in the spongy moth egg mass. So a lot of people can get those confused, but we're happy to look at pictures, and we'd like to nip this in the bud before it shows up here. Just a plug for the Plant Diagnostic Clinic. We're happy to help you guys out. If anybody's from another state, every state has a plant diagnostic clinic. Giovanna is our very capable plant pathologist that works in the lab, and feel free to send us samples, contact us, send us pictures, and we're happy to help. So that is it.
Wow. Awesome. Perfect timing.
Fast. It was fast, but
it's
a fever dream of plant disease.
And yeah. Well, I think the faster the better, because then you don't get too depressed. You're just going through them so fast. Okay, so if anybody has any questions for Kellie or for Anne, please put them in the chat. And Anne, I had a question about this new strawberry disease. Have you what's the closest it's been observed? Is it in Vermont?
I haven't seen it in Vermont yet, but I think Massachusetts has seen it. Maybe Maine has seen it. So it's probably here, and it's just not getting diagnosed. But and there's not a lot known about it yet. We don't know if there are some cultivars that are more susceptible, but it's probably coming in on transplants or plugs. So make sure you get the best plugs you can. But yeah, it's we have to, the jury's sort of out on this one, but it's not good. But stay tuned. We'll be looking for it this next summer, and especially if Kellie's out and about doing more surveying, we'll definitely look for this one too.
All right. Well, it looks like everything else. So
I know. It's yeah. But at least it's got those fruiting bodies. That's the one good thing.
Well, I saw that little sunken lesion on the strawberry and those black little dots.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've seen that before.
Well,
maybe anyway, we will be looking. For sure.
Okay, good. Well, Heather, your farm is usually ground zero for.
Isn't that great? Okay.
Whoever finds it wins a prize
Yeah, I hate that when I'm
when
the
you win.
first. Yeah. Do either of you, the group is pretty quiet. It was quiet yesterday too, but do either of you have anything you wanted to add that you didn't have time to say? I have more questions, but
The one thing that I'll just say real quick that I didn't get a chance to is that we are repeating the on-farm scouting this year in 2026. So if there are any strawberry growers that are on right now and are interested in having us come out and do some scouting on their farms, please just shoot me an email. We'd be happy to come visit you.
ooh, that is good. Good, good, good. All right. The other question I had was about the spotted lanternfly. I mean, they're so distinct and beautiful. So it seems like if somebody and the word is out, I feel like.
Yeah.
I I was watching the news, I feel like one morning, and it was the national news. And the spotted lanternfly. No, wasn't the spotted lanternfly on Saturday Night Live?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, forget about the Today Show. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was Bo and Yang. I think he did.
yeah, the spotted lanternfly made Saturday Night Live.
I
So
know.
I feel like, if people see this thing,
Yeah, I think
they'll
it'll be.
know to report it. But
Yeah. And boy, I've been down in Washington, D.C. and New Haven, Connecticut, and where they're all over the place. And boy,
yeah.
they're all over the place. And one of the worst things about this is it's got that piercing, sucking mouth part, and then it excretes a sticky, sweet uh, substance, and then sooty mold grows on
Oh,
it. So that's a
okay.
lot of times that's how people notice it, like in grapes first, is all the sooty mold.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, add that to the fun times with spotted lanternfly.
Oh,
Myra, thank you for asking. Shannon, if you could share the CCA QR code, that would be great. And Laura is wondering about what do we do about beech leaf disease?
yeah,
We have enough things killing our trees, Anne.
I
What can
know.
we
It's
do?
I think our trees are under siege. And beech already had, that I think nectar
Oh,
in the scale insect.
hmm.
So yeah, no, they haven't figured anything out yet. There might be an injection um, of fungal, nematicide that they can inject, but people are working on it, but there's nothing definitive yet. And it's all beaches are susceptible. So it's really a sad one. And boy, the coast of Maine, all their beaches are dead from this
Oh,
disease.
no. Yeah, some of these things seem to fly in and attack us without being prepared. But how you,
I think in 10,000 years it's all going to be okay because everything will have a predator or a parasite, but I probably won't be here. So
yeah, probably, unless that crystal ball says otherwise. Anyway, now everybody heard it here that you have a crystal ball, so don't
I
be
used to have a
surprised.
Ouija board above
Oh,
the lab.
anyway, well, I want to thank both of you again for coming to IPM week and sharing all this great information with us. And tomorrow, we are going to be hearing about some new emerging technologies here in Vermont. We will be hearing from um, Daniel Lathrop from Aero Drone Solutions. He's located here in Vermont and has been offering services or starting to offer drone services here. And then we'll have Jared Brown from Greenfield Robotics talking about managing weeds with robots. So you'll definitely want to tune in for that. And otherwise, we're at 1 o'clock, so perfect. Everyone, thank you again, and we'll see you all tomorrow, hopefully.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks, Ann and Kelly.
Sure.
Shannon, you want to stop recording?